All right, we're live.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us at our February meeting of the Athens Cultural Affairs Commission. So, like to start off with some happy news. So why don't I happily report the fact that we have three members whose terms are expiring in March, and I don't know if this is a first for ACAC, but I think it's a first under my watch that all three want to renew their terms. So the band is staying together for an encore performance. So much exciting things happening at ACAC that nobody wants to leave. So we will be filling one new member in the coming months for an 11th member for Patrice's position since she moved to Pennsylvania a few months back. But other than that, the team will be intact with one new member in a few months. Some financial news. We are carrying a larger balance in our capital account than we frankly should, in part because we're getting more for our annual capital allotment than we asked for. So Darcy and I were wondering what was happening with our budget, um, and took a closer look at it, and we're accruing 10,000 more a year than we had asked for. So that means we're carrying a balance of 72,000 in our capital account. We are earmarking a good bit of that for, of course, each year our Athens Music Walk of Fame. It's the budget account that we will be using moving forward to pay local artist assistants.
Hey,
And then
Andrew, I'm
yes,
sorry to interrupt, but Darcy's not able to hear anything. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
we hear you.
Can we hear everybody? Can everybody hear everybody? Hmm. Did she pop? Oh, maybe she got out and is going to dial back in. Yeah. Okay, sorry to interrupt. I was just
Okay,
okay.
so we're carrying a balance of 72,000 in our capital account. We have a number of things earmarked for that. It's the budget we use for our arts for our Music Walk of Fame each year, and that's about $6,300. It's the budget account that we will start using to pay local artist assistants. But it is probably a good idea to think about taking on a new initiative in coming months, to be a little ambitious and think of something that we wouldn't ordinarily be able to fund out of this capital account. And frankly, this can be somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000. Um, Obviously, our public art master plan calls for us to be thinking about a couple things, murals being what our public art master plans, surveys, and so forth. The number one thing people want to see is murals, and I think the more we do murals, the more murals we do, that's the feedback that we always get is cool, keep doing more. Another thing to consider is bike racks. Whether or not we want to think about some sculptural bike racks to tie together some uh, bicycle infrastructure that's already here for the Greenway. And if you guys look at the next T-Splosh cycle, there will be a lot of pedestrian and specifically bicycle um, infrastructure that will be coming online. So I'm not saying those are our only two options, but those are probably the two most logical. But I welcome any other suggestions that y'all might have for a spending initiative in coming months, somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000. Murals, bike racks, something else altogether. You tell us. Nikki.
So this is just off the cuff. Um, I was doing some research about the Socrates Sculpture Park in New York. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that, but it's in it's on Long Island. Anyway, has a view of New York. This guy, Mark DeSevero, cleaned it up in the 80s and then turned it into this park where they have 2 shows a year of like large scale outdoor work that rotates. So they have no permanent collection. They have no and they have no permanent collection. So the space ends up being like a studio itself as well for these public artists who are then using it as like a both a studio and exhibition space. Um, and I was thinking like, man, that would be so cool to have something like that in Athens. And I know that thing has like a whole lot of money wrapped into it, and it's in the New York public parks now at this point. It was absorbed. Um, but
Sorry to interrupt, Mickey, but these funds need to be spent on permanent art. So nothing temporary or rotating programming wise. It has to be permanent.
Since it's our
installation.
capital budget.
Yeah, yeah.
That
So that's
said,
very cool. I wish we could do more stuff like that, but
sure.
that is the
there's-
one caveat of this particular source of funding.
there's merit there, and you know, similarly conceptually is our own Jackson Street Art Walk, which will be a part of SPLOST 2020 in about 10 years. So we've got some time for that. However, we don't have very many funding mechanisms as things stand for the art that will eventually align the Jackson Street Art Walk. Now, it's meant to be a combination of temporary and permanent works. But right now, the only budget source for artwork for that project is our 1%, which is not going to be enough.
And so funds like that.
Sorry. We couldn't even argue that like a rotating permanent collection for the capital budget.
Don't see why not. We got 20 or 30 grand, y'all. Sky's the limit.
I thought the limit's
Storage might be tough, huh?
30,000.
What's that, Stephanie?
Nothing.
The limit is actually 30,000. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
The sky is somewhere between where we are and 30,000. Other suggestions?
Can we do a combination?
No reason not to consider a combination. We could do one of each,
Or several
a
of
soup
each?
and a salad. Yes, I like that idea. Do we want to, I don't want to put people on the spot with a decision. Do we want to move this discussion to either of our standings monthly subcommittees, whether that's strategy or outreach, or do we want to keep discussing this now? We can do both.
Can I throw in 2 cents?
Please.
During our strategy group meeting, we were talking about developing some more infrastructure with bicycles and
Yes.
biking. So we need to flesh that out in terms of what that might look like with the biking community. We talked about that. A mural, whether a theme it might be, is just low-hanging fruit. We are very successful at doing that. We give them more of what they want, and I'm just saying that we just need to kind of come together about the bike thing, because that might be more than one bike rack.
I like that, B, and something we've talked about in our strategy meetings, and something that our public art master plan begs of us is to have standalone task forces on things like murals, on things like bike racks, and it might be time to deputize a standalone task force, specifically for bike racks, maybe first. Since we have a lot of bicycle infrastructure coming down the pike, with the T-Splost in particular, it might be nice to start mapping out what our bicycle infrastructure will look like soon and where bike racks might be needed to serve as connecting points, to serve as logical ways to use the bicycle infrastructure, have a place to store your bike as you're conducting your business, and just to support bikeability. Our master plan roughly outlines it that not all members of the task force need to be us. It's a way to get other community input, but perhaps an ACAC member or even an ex officio member could chair a task force.
I'm in for that.
Cool.
I have some connections to Bike Athens as well. That might be helpful.
They
don't really
need
know
a seat
how
at
to,
this
like, how-
table, yes.
Yeah, how do we begin to like engage in that, I guess? Maybe that's a discussion for another time.
Yeah, we could talk about that offline, but it's outlined though somewhat in our public art master plan. We haven't really had a successful task force. We had a mural group that met, a few times pre-COVID and then kind of disbanded. Esra, I saw you raise your hand.
I was just thinking, as you mentioned, we have been talking about the bike racks for a while in the strategy group. But I wonder if there's going to be a dedicated budget for it coming from T-Splost. I wonder if we can use this money, leftover money, in a different kind of a direction to kind of branch out and do things that we haven't necessarily done so far. And I really like Mickey's idea of a part of a statue park or a venue that we can have as like another kind of a locus of artistic expression. I'm really interested in kinetic arts recently. So I wonder if there's anything that we can do, branch out and do things that we wouldn't normally do, thinking that there will be dedicated budget to do bike racks and murals in the future. But I'm just thinking that will be the case. I'm not sure if there's dedicated budget for that, but so correct me if I'm wrong about this.
There should be some, in the upcoming T-Splost projects, we get 1% of those project funds as well. They're usually not as big a budget. Some of them are bigger than others. So we can always add money to those budgets. But yes, there will be designated funds, hopefully for things like bike racks and some of those projects, just to answer that question.
And maybe it's time to put a bicycle task force together, independent of what we do with this $20,000 or $30,000, just to get coordinated. At the SPOS 2020 project list, there are a lot of opportunities to consider bike racks, such as Beach Haven, Bishop Park, Tallahassee Forest. There are a number of projects that might warrant consideration for carving out a portion of the public art budget for bike racks, and it would be a good strategic move to start looking at where the bicycle infrastructure we have now, the bicycle infrastructure that would be built from the next T-Splost, which hasn't been voted upon, so that might be putting the cart ahead of the horse. Even still, those elections tend to go strongly in favor of the yes vote. And maybe the time to have a task force put together is now.
The only thing I'd say, Andrew, around that is that a lot of those SPLOS projects don't come online for, they're out years and years from today. And so whatever we're talking about today, I'm sorry, I came in late today, but this $20,000 to $30,000 budget, if that's something that can be spent immediately to start building some momentum, that's something that we could do now. All of these other SPLOS projects are really 5, 10 years out, if we want to make a mark or a statement around bike racks now, I don't think we can really just wait for the SPLOS projects, because they trickle in very slowly.
I still do like the idea of a task force to start mapping bicycle infrastructure. And this task force can tell us what SPLOS projects are coming when, to help us plan instead of playing whack-a-mole, one opportunity at a time, which is how we've been doing things. The strategy team sees the task force as a way to get really coordinated on a fairly narrow topic, such as bike racks and bicycle infrastructure. So Mickey raised his hand as being a part of this task force. Do we still think that's a good direction? And if so, who else from this group would want to be included?
It's a good idea.
Serena, I know you as our biggest bicyclist. Is this an interest of yours? Would you be interested in serving on a task force? I'm not trying to put you on the spot, even though I just did.
No, yes, I would love to. I was just thinking maybe one step earlier, when we were talking about the sculpture garden. I feel like there's a lot of sculpture that we recently did for Athens. So I was kind of liking more the idea of something that it's like what Montu said, graffiti wall, something that it's, I don't know, even maybe more than just bike, if we can create something that it's multi-artistic kind of stuff, maybe it will be even greater, but I'm of course more than happy to do it.
Okay, I like it. And again, these can be two separate conversations, a bicycle task force and something else to spend our funds on that may or may not include anything related to bicycles. I also, back to the point that we have no funding mechanisms for art alongside the Jackson Street Art Walk, I wonder if this $20,000 to $30,000 could be a piece of three-dimensional art that would be designed to be part of the permanent collection, to line the Jackson Street Art Walk. And I wonder if between now and a decade from now, when the Jackson Street Art Walk is being built, if this sculpture could go somewhere in the vicinity of the Jackson Street Art Walk to let our public know that this is coming. Just a thought.
Hey, can you guys hear me? I'm
You're fuzzy.
Can you guys hear me? Andrew, can you hear me?
You're better.
Okay, sorry, yeah, I'm in my car. Yeah, okay, great. I wonder, so I saw Dee Dee's comment in the chat about interest in a sculpture on, is it the lawn at the Art Center, as a part of the art walk? Is that what you're thinking? Like it could be something, up in conjunction with the Art Center, or it could, because I guess that project, we haven't like broken ground or anything, so that's probably the closest location. So I like that idea, Andrew. I think, and kind of in the same way that Helen was saying, like this is a way to start conversations and get the public excited about projects that to them seem so far off in 5 or 10 years. So I really like either of those suggestions, like either the bike rack or the sculpture. I was wondering though, would something like, you were saying murals, and I apologize, I came in a little late to this meeting as well. So for some, you were talking about murals. Is that something that would have to be, it's one mural forever, or is that like, I'm thinking about the project in the master plan that talks about establishing a wall for murals, but the murals itself could change maybe every 2 years, but the mural wall, like that would be the sort of long-term project. It's just sort of what's on the canvas might change.
Yeah,
Is that
Monty mentioned
appropriate?
that. Monty mentioned that in the chat too. Something like a graffiti wall. I think it's a good idea. I don't know if it's too ephemeral to be a use from this particular budget source. However, I don't have an answer to that.
I think with the rotating wall idea, it's just, again, it's a matter of what can capital funds pay for. And I
Right.
don't know, it might need to just be a question for the attorney's office with the ordinance to just, get a ruling on that, because I think the idea is that it's something that lasts for 25 years and, we maintain it. But I don't know if the rotating art would qualify for that. So it might just have to be different funds. I don't know.
That said, we will have some wiggle room in our budget in years moving forward. Our public art master plan, as other people mentioned here, does call for us to have had a rotating mural wall for more temporary mural works that maybe change every year or so. I think we'll have latitude in our operating budget to do that in a couple years, if not the next fiscal year even. I think it's time to start having that conversation too, because it's one of the very things that our public art master plan considers to be a priority for this community is such a wall. I don't know how to start investigating that topic specifically, but I welcome thoughts from our county representatives.
I was gonna say it could be something too, like, how we have the arts and community awards that come out of the operating budget. It's like, I wonder if we had something that was a rotating mural type thing that we gave out to somebody every year or every, few months or whatever, however it happens to be.
I like that. And okay, so tomorrow is our budget hearing. I will be in 20 minutes from 7:20 to 7:40 if anybody wants to tune in, watch me grovel. Asking for additional funds for operating budget to increase the award amounts for arts and community awards to $5,000 each, and to have 3 of those each spring and again in the fall. So we'll have 6 awards over the course of the year at $5,000 each, which is a lot more substantial. I think our $52,000 awards for COVID relief really demonstrate that this is great, but we're playing a little too cheap with our artists, and in very few cases, for those 50 awardees, did our artists have the ability to compensate themselves for their time. So essentially, they were covering their material costs, and their time was probably donated in most cases. So that's an idea. Is we could identify a wall. $5,000 would go a long way towards such a wall, as long as it's not as big as, say, the side of the Costa building. We could, I think, I like the idea, and what Dee Dee's saying here is that the wall itself is a permanent work. Maybe we would have latitude to fund that out of not only our operating budget, but maybe our capital budget as well. Although I would want the county's attorney's office to sign off on that before we go too far in that direction.
That's what I would suggest. Like, we might need to kind of phrase, like, what is the mission of this expenditure? And one of those things is to say, like, to create a fixed space for more artists to have rotating works so that we can compensate artists more often as well, or have fresh new work. So we just need to sort of talk about the price point and the regularity and see if that can be made possible through capital funds or combination of funds, like kind of there's some suggestions in the chat and some ideas too. And that also gives a chance to communicate to our legal team that the Cultural Affairs Commission or the public at large are interested in like different ways of creating works of public art. Not everything as like fixed in forever 25 years. So like, how do we kind of expand for having more types and more options that are more, I guess, reflective of what people are looking for in ways that we can bring this, to the community.
Yeah, and I think we should look at, I'm not sure where leasing comes into the budget frameworks, but one of the things that we talked about as far as murals go is leasing walls, because there aren't, I mean, otherwise we have to look at only public buildings. And if we would have a much larger range of possibilities, if we could lease walls, enter in some kind of lease arrangement with property owners.
Yeah. I've talked to, the finance department about this, and it's the classification is that recurring expenditures for a project are operating costs, whereas one-time expenditures qualify as capital. So maybe just think in those terms and think how we can work with those parameters. But that may need some research with the attorney's office. I would definitely recommend before we get too far off. But that's kind of the difference between those two.
Hey, sorry, you might not be able to hear me. Could someone remind me where the funds for the Athens Music Walk of Fame come from?
They had been coming.
Those are SPLOS funds from our SPLOS 2011 pool of public art funds.
I would like to move that moving forward from our capital budget, since our capital budget is recurring each year, and this is a recurring expense that we're locked into. We could drain out our entire Project 21 budget just from the Athens Music Walk of Fame over the next 30 years if we, with no further action. And since that budget source is not going to get replenished, I like the idea of moving our Music Walk of Fame. It's going to be about $6,300 a year recurring to our capital.
Yeah, I may need clarification on that too, because I think we have to exhaust the 2011 SPLOS budget first
Before
we spend other capital funds.
Source, yeah.
We spend other capital funds each year.
Yeah, I think I don't know, but maybe not. I'll look into it.
Okay, thank you. So there are a lot of threads hanging in the air. Do we like the idea of go ahead and deputizing a bicycle task force and getting constituents from Bike Athens, Athens in Motion, whoever else makes sense, looking at the public art master plan for some guidance on what our task force would be, in having at least 2 members from our body, Nikki and Serena, if you're willing. Again, I feel like I'm aggressively putting you on the spot just because I see you on a bike all the time. And that's not fair. So speak now or forever hold your peace. And who, if anybody else wants to be part of that group, please weigh in or let me know over the next couple of days. Does that sound good? I don't want to, and I don't intend to just dump this in your lap, Serena and Mickey. I will work with you guys until we have a clearer sense of what a task force should look like and how it should operate. Our public art master plan gives some guidance that this isn't a group that needs to meet indefinitely. Maybe it just needs to meet a few times for now to map out our looming bicycle infrastructure, look at the SPLOS 2020 list and other public art funding sources that are in the pike, investigate which projects might have a carve out for some bicycle infrastructure, like the Bishop Park project, for example, reaching out to Bike Athens, Athens in Motion, to get a group of like 6 to 8 people on this issue, to help us plan what bike racks over the next 10 or 15 years could look like in Athens. Does that sound okay? What do we do with this $20,000 to $30,000 then? I don't think we need to rush to make a decision tonight, but perhaps we should have a sense of how we want to make a decision on that.
I had a thought too about thinking about the Music Walk of Fame and or the Walk of Fame, not necessarily music. But I was in Anderson, South Carolina, and they have like plaques that have quotations on them. And I thought that was a great idea. It's like if you had like music lyrics, or you had, you know, movie quotes, or if you had poetry, like something small. And it seems like it's something you can almost templatize, so it's a little bit cheaper for us, kind of like the bus shelters. So just a thought of a different way to get some kind of written word out there, you know, because I don't feel like we have much of that type of art kind of in any of our projects, really.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Our poet laureate shouldn't be the only one doing this kind of work. However, if you guys recall, and just to refresh some memories for those who might not have been part of that discussion a year or so back, our poet laureate, Jeff Follis, has at his discretion the option to pursue one of our arts and community awards to execute on a public art project of his choosing over the course of his 2-year term as poet laureate. I guess one thing that we haven't discussed is, what do we do if our award amount goes up? Do we give Jeff the option at what we agreed upon a year ago when it was $2,000 awards? Or if the award amounts go up, does Jeff have the option to pursue one of those at the increased award amounts?
Hey, sorry, I just put this in the chat, but it's easy to
Yeah.
unmute. How can he apply for an arts and community award if he's already under contract?
Yeah, he already has a budget. He has a $1,500 budget.
Okay.
That, yeah, it wasn't that he can apply for an award. It was that he has a $1,500 budget.
Okay,
For
so if that's already
programming, event costs, like that's been earmarked in the budget.
then if that's already earmarked and specified in the contract, then maybe we
Yes.
don't need to have a discussion beyond that. All right, I
Yeah.
forgot that was already specified in his contract.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I digress. Yes, Darcy, I think that's great. There's plenty of room for spoken word, not just through our poet laureate. I mean, we have a vibrant pool of local lyrics to choose from, and that really should be something we think about as a nice nice harmony to our music walk, for sure.
Yeah, I really like that idea. Just thinking about sort of diversifying the types of art that, you know, we're able to work with and showcase, and the different, you know, just creating opportunities for more kinds of artists. So I like the idea of music lyrics, or like poetry, like they said. Or I wonder if we could even do, you know, I don't know, even quotes about like from, you know, novels or history texts about Athens. Or I feel like there's just a lot you could do, and maybe even different ways to showcase quotes. Like you were saying, plaques. I'd love to look at examples, but we've also kind of floated the ideas of, I don't know if this would work for something text-based, but we've been talking about the idea of using something like a laser cut metal panel, like the bus, some of the bus shelters were, for different, you know, installing it as if it's a sign or almost like a plaque. Or yeah, I don't know. I hadn't, that's like a brand new idea. I think I haven't heard anybody talk about something like that. So I'd love to take time to explore what maybe that option or other options could look like before we make a motion. So if we could, I don't know if we need to table it till next month and just do some fact finding or whatever you think, Andrew.
Now's probably the time to mention that there was brief discussion with the Clayton Street work to incorporate lyrics into the public work that I'm blanking on his name, our artist for Clayton.
Rick Lashinsky.
Yes, Eric Lashinsky is planning for Clayton Street. There was brief discussion with the mayor and commission. I don't think it ever was discussed outside of a mayor and commission working group meeting, but that was a consideration at one point in time. And he was all for it. It was just logistically who would come up with the right lyrics, who would be the decision makers, and then that project is enough of its own challenge with the long-standing street construction that I don't think the discussion of the integration of lyrics into Lashinsky's work went any further. But I will say, anecdotally, our mayor and commission were really receptive to public works that incorporate local lyrics. So we should move on. However, should we just should our strategy team be the ones discussing how to spend this $20,000 or $30,000? Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, I see a lot of heads nodding. Cool.
Sorry, why do we need to take it to the strategy team rather than table for full discussion for next month?
We can discuss it and come up with options, I think, maybe finesse this and come up with some options at our strategy team meeting and then bring it back to the full group in a month.
Okay,
Does that
that
sound
sounds
good?
good.
Cool. Sounds good. Okay. Thanks, y'all. That's enough from me. I'm going to mute myself while we hear projects reports.
Okay. Like Andrew mentioned, we have Clayton coming up. The fabrication is pending right now. And Clayton's going to be wrapping up in April, May. Kind of the College Street intersection is kind of going to be wrapping up in April and then moving down the streetscape in May. So we've told Eric that it would probably be ideal if he wanted to just make one trip to do the install in May. So that is the plan. Poet Laureate, I've been working with Jeff on some programming for April, which is Poetry Month. So there's going to be an event at the library that's pending, a downtown display of poetry in windows, and a few other things. So I'll have all those ironed out next month. So stay tuned. Greenway, the mayor and commission have approved the site and type for 2 calls. So I'm working on the drafts of those 2 calls right now, going through a few different departments, making sure that everyone has their considerations accounted for in these calls, just to do a better job of getting everyone's input on the front end. Firefly Phase 2, the next user group meeting is going to be this Friday. So that's coming up. Cost of building, that construction conversation has been halted. There's a conversation happening with the mayor and commission next month in regards to the building use, which is going to inform a lot of the theme or considerations for art. So that'll be helpful, and some of the funding as well. Classic Center Arena, the user group met on the 16th and discussed types of art and locations. There was a pretty good agreement consensus from the group on that. So we need to have a conversation about the budgets for those sub-projects and how we're gonna split up that budget with the different types of art. Affordable housing, we've discussed some public engagement. I'm going to be meeting with Mel tomorrow to talk to her about processes with public engagement before we move forward on that. Music Walk of Fame. The committee has met a couple times earlier this year and recently, and they have established the next round of inductees. So that's really exciting. They're top secret for now. They are now at the mayor's office for them to get in contact with all of those artists and make sure everyone's on board before we go ahead and make the announcement. So that's going to be, it's going to be a good round this year. And Hawthorne, we haven't really moved too far on that, but in regards to public engagement, since that project doesn't have a user group, it may be beneficial to go a public engagement round, get some feedback before we make any decisions about how best to proceed with that project. So I think that's all of our active projects for now.
I have a question, Tatiana, for the Hawthorne, and it might just be we just haven't formed it yet, but we don't have a user group because that project just won't have a user group, or?
So the manager's office makes user groups for most of the projects. Some of the smaller projects don't have user groups. In the event that there isn't one, we can either put together a group of stakeholders, or you know, like we could either go, you know, do some public engagement first before we then go to the stakeholders. We have some options with that project.
Oh, gotcha. So is the group of stakeholders you're talking about, we could assemble it or the manager's office assembles it?
No, we would assemble it because there isn't one for this project. It's a really small project, so it doesn't have
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, it's just two different types of but we're still engaging with people who would. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
So once I get some good feedback about, you know, best practices for public engagement, there's a couple projects that we have where it might be beneficial to take some time to do that before we proceed with any decisions. Any other questions about projects? Donna? You're muted, Donna. I can't hear you.
She's not muted. She's just inaudible.
All right.
Now you're muted, but we couldn't hear you even when you were.
It's like charades.
She looked impassioned.
I know. I really want to hear what she has to say.
Okay, she's typing. While she's typing, the strategy team is okay, we can return to her question. When do we know if the manager makes
the manager is not making a user group for this project because it's a very small project. So we can put a group of stakeholders together. Yeah.
Okay.
They're not doing it.
But functionally it's kind of the same. It's just we could just take the initiative and do it instead.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Cool.
More or less.
Okay. Yeah, more or less.
It's a little different, but for
gotcha.
the sake.
Sorry, this is a little off topic, but I was just thinking, I've seen so many basketball courts recently that have murals on them. I wonder if there's something that we could do in that realm too. I just wanted to throw it out there before I forgot.
I love that, Darcy. That reminds me, well, actually, I'll just put it in the chat, but it was a question. Well, okay, I'll just ask. I'm unmuted. I had a question about the Bishop Park. Tatiana, you might have an update or something, but I think, is there already a Bishop Park sort of improvement plan, or do we know about what role we might have in that at all?
Because I was,
District Park
I,
is part of SPLOST 2020. It's
Right.
a $5 million project, if I recall correctly. So
Okay.
our public art budget will be, plus or minus $50,000, assuming that's all construction. So it
Okay.
will. I can find the funding schedule and give you a better ballpark
Yeah,
on
that
what
one's
year
gonna
that would
be,
be.
that one's probably gonna be a few years off, but yes.
Tatiana, do you want to run through arts and community awards and give updates there?
Sure. We still have some reports pending, but our most recent awardees have been paid out. So.
Cool.
And they're
And the
good
question
there.
is, when do we do our next award cycle? It's probably something we can get going on at our next month's meeting. We still have plenty of time left in the fiscal year.
We have 2 of those still kind of earmarked in the budget for that, so.
And it'll be a squeaker, but we might have room for a third. Let me pause here. Can I get a motion? I don't have the script in front of me. I'm gonna screw this up. Our January minutes need a motion. Does anybody have any changes or recommended edits for our January minutes? There we go.
No.
Can I get a motion to approve our January minutes?
I so move.
Okay. In a second.
Second.
Sounds good. All in favor of approving our minutes from last month in January? Great. Anybody opposed? Thanks, Madeline, for taking your thumb down. Okay. Speaking of budget, Victoria, do you have that cost estimate for a facilitator?
Yeah, so this is just from Carl Vinson, but it's $2,300 for either a half day or a full day. You don't get a break for half or full. It's just a $2,300 flat fee for them to facilitate.
So that's something we need to decide tonight is whether or not to have a retreat. April was their best timeline, their soonest timeline. I don't really think there's any reason to wait beyond April. I think it'd be nice to have a day-long retreat, say on a Saturday in April, to convene, to discuss, to actively plan together, to share ideas, to prioritize, and to really take the space that we haven't been able to take in a couple of years. AECAC has been 100% virtual for a couple of years. I think we're all kind of eager to have more team building and more interaction in a personal setting. So a couple things. Do we feel like Carl Vinson as a facilitator is the way to go? And if so, I think they had 3 weekends in April available.
Yeah, and then he actually emailed me earlier today or Friday maybe that they only right now have the April 2nd, 9th, and 23rd. They don't have the 30th available any longer. And he thought we might want to look at 1 or 2 dates in May just to get full participation because people get busy, and that was his suggestion.
So why don't we do this? Can we get Tatiana, could you send a survey out for a retreat?
Yeah, just for those Saturdays.
The
And April and May.
April and May, except for the April 30th, because that one is no longer available.
and wasn't Easter weekend also not an option? So the 16th isn't an option either. So in April it's either 2, 9, or 30.
2, 9, or 23.
2, 9, or 23. I'm sorry, 2, 9, or 23. And then if you want to throw in another couple May Saturdays in there, just so we have options, that would be great.
Yep.
Thank you. So yeah, that's it for, for the retreat. From a budgetary standpoint, our operating budget is even after paying out our fall awardees for Arts and Community Awards, we still have 10,900. So subtracting 2,300 for a facilitator and, maybe some other sundry costs, we would need a location. Although we could probably find a location that wouldn't cost us anything or a whole lot for a Saturday. I don't know if the Linden House has available options on a Saturday. But we could find other spaces if need be. Thanks, Dee Dee. So yeah, we can let the survey results tell us what weekend we need to find a space for. It would be great if we could have a date set in the next week or so. And again, with 2,300 for a facilitator fee, we would still have a healthy 8,600 in our budget to administer easily 2, perhaps even a 3rd Arts and Community Award for a spring cycle.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Anything from the outreach team?
Nothing really for this month, but we'll want to take some time in our next meeting, which is just in 2 weeks, I guess. But yeah, we'll want to take some time at the next meeting to talk about with everybody. We want to circle you in on the progress about the website. So Helen has done a lot of amazing work to prepare and for that project, and has done like a whole sort of audit of the existing content on the website. And we've been talking in our team about needs, opportunities, etc. So I think we can do a full sort of rundown on that next month, and then start to talk about next steps to get, a call out, and also talking about after we present out sort of here's what we think the structure of the website could be, we'll want to start talking about sort of in the different spaces, the different like a projects page or something like that, talk about what projects could be highlighted, how we could delegate background research, what copy do we already have, or what could we do to help flesh that out, because that would be us producing the content, and then the website builder would put the pieces together for us, but we would need to produce the content for it. So yeah, so we'll just want to take some time with that next month. But yeah, that's about it.
Great, thanks. That's it for the agenda. Do we want to share some arts happenings?
I can go real quick. It's not an event so much, although at Creature Comforts we have Renee Shoemaker's beautiful silk paintings on view just for another week. It's called Doors of Athens, so you'll see these beautiful abstract versions of a lot of local businesses, which is really cool. But I did want to let everybody know Creature Comforts has published our call for, we're doing a request for qualifications process for our artists in residence for this year. And that is only open for about a month, open through March 13th. So that's open only to local artists here in Athens. Really great opportunity for emerging artists to sort of develop their creative leadership skills. That is really what the residency is all about. So I can share some the call in our email thread. But yeah, please share far and wide if you know anybody.
Are you going to talk about the public art class, Dee Dee?
Why, yes, I am. I have a couple things. First is that the jury show, the 47th jury show, opens next week. And Mickey, you have some work in that show, I believe. And so, yeah, Thursday, the 3rd, and we're not doing a reception, but we're doing Eventbrite timed free tickets. So on the website, there's a link if you want to arrange for a group visit with your friends and family to come in. There's still some spaces available sort of middle of the day. I also will share some very sad news that our founder, Nancy Lukashevitz, passed away about 10 days ago. And we'll be dedicating the juried show catalog to her, as it was one of her baby projects, you know, at the very beginning, 47 years ago, as well as we'll be announcing that publicly on the social media and in the flagpole. So it's a terrible thing. So then I have a couple other things. We have a teen public art class. We are collaborating with a number of people, including Tatiana. Thank you so much. This class is going to go take walking tours around town with special guests that will talk about what it's like to be a public artist, including David Hale, Will Eskridge, Broderick Flanagan, Johnny Junkins Herzog, Eleanor Saragusi, and Vanessa Briscoe Hay will talk about, of course, Pylon on the Music Walk of Fame. The kids are going to be painting a large scale, actually no, 2 of the panels, 5x5 panels that will be outside in our work court. And they will also be putting a new fresh coat of paint on the bulldog that sits in front of Lay Park Community Center. So it's also going to be on the website and everything else. If you have some teens, 11 to 17, that would like to learn about how it is to be a public artist and eat pizza. Can't get any better than that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's Thursdays, March 17, it begins, 4 to 6:30.
And what's the cost on that?
It is scholarship eligible, and I don't see it on the poster.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have to look on that. But there is a $15 fee for paint that's not refundable.
Okay.
That's great.
As you know, we have, Leisure Services has a very robust scholarship program. Okay, jury show, teen public art. I am starting to fundraise on behalf of the Clarke County School District Student Art Exhibition. This has been a biennial, a triennial, and at this point, I don't know with COVID, is this 4 years, 3 years? I'm not quite sure, but it will be opening October 9 of this year. And in the past, ACAC has gifted some funds to the catalog. So I'm going to go ahead and send you all the letter. We are already halfway there in terms of the design, layout, and printing costs. CCSD is contributing and Leisure Services is contributing. And now I'm going into businesses and individual patrons to get our funds together. So we're in pretty good shape with that, but I'm hoping that ACAC can participate because it's a great project for the city. And we have an extra special thing happening in that downtown development will be covering all of the light posts with the children's artwork, something like 90 light posts of the artwork that is in the Linden House show, which is very exciting, from all different schools and all different grades. So that's wonderful. Yeah, I'm in the middle of a project at the warehouse that actually will include some street signage, and I can share that with you. I have a funding meeting tomorrow about it. But maybe for the next monthly meeting, I'll share the progress on that, because it does address some of your conversation in regards to having different types of art and information out in the public in our downtown area. So thank you.
The Ware Linden House, the historic house. of
Yes.
Yes, of the Linden.
Cool.
I had a couple things also from the arts division. Because we're really busy, and now that we're kind of able to have more people in our spaces and with a little more regularity, you see us starting to pick up the pace. So I wanted to say that we're very excited that the East Athens Educational Dance Center will be back in the Morton Theater, the first time that our dance students who have steadily taken classes, especially our advanced students, like I am so proud of them. Those are the teenage dancers in our program. They have dancing with masks on for the entire pandemic. They will be at the Morton Theater this week. You can see them Saturday night at 7 p.m. and Sunday at 3 p.m. It'll be a range of all of our dancers from our whole program. It's a wonderful, it's going to be a wonderful presentation called Moving Mountains is the name. And then also on March 11th is before our next meeting, Titanic the Musical will be at the Morton Theater with our Athens Creative Theater and the AMTO, which is our Athens Musical Theater Orchestra. So it's not like the play, it's the music and the singing and that from Titanic. I'm not sure there's any tickets left, so if you're interested in that, you should go to the ACT social media or go to the Morton's website to check that, because tickets went right out the door for that show and people are really excited for it. So yeah, so we're excited to have some people back in for our performing arts offerings. That's what I have.
Cool. Anyone else?
I was just gonna say very quickly, if you're looking for something to do tomorrow at 2 o'clock, I am moderating a conversation with 2 comic artists. I'm gonna put the information on the chat. But basically, we're gonna be talking about their roles as Muslim artists, looking at a range of Muslim experiences, and creating their memoirs in the graphic form. It will be Özge Samancu, Leyla Abdullah Razak, and Elia Khan, 2 o'clock tomorrow.
Cool. Y'all are doing awesome stuff.
I have an item.
Sure.
Athica is having their 2022 members showcase starting on Saturday, February 26th, and it'll be up for that exhibit will be up for a month. And they are going to have a little reception opening Saturday from 6 to 9. If anybody wants to go out and see art.
Just a reminder that Dee Dee's the reception happy hour fun we're going to do with Dee Dee to celebrate her governor's award is Thursday, March 10th from 5 to 7-ish at the Hotel Indigo bar and outside patio.
Cool.
Mark your calendars. Come toast Dee Dee.
What was that time
Is that-
again, Stephanie?
It again, B?
What was that time again? I'm sorry.
5 to 7.
5 to 7. Thank
5-ish
you.
to 7. Yep.
Sorry, what day again?
Thursday. 10th.
Yep. March
Thursday
10th.
the 10th.
Mhm.
Okay. I have a piece at the Africa show. So
Nice.
Right.
Very good.
You're all over.
I think we ought to shout out to B for her Rabbit Box. Everybody who missed it, you missed
Yeah, it's
it.
great.
Oh,
B did
wow.
Rabbit Box and it was fantastic.
Thank you, Jan.
Last Tuesday. She was excellent.
I'm so sorry I keep jumping in with random ideas, but I just Dee Dee's thing about the teens really, it was kind of inspiring, and I'm thinking, you know, with that capital budget, I wonder if we could use that as a way to develop curriculum, like that type of curriculum for kids in Clarke County. Because it would be considered, it would be a one-time purchase to develop the curriculum, and then we could maybe continue the process or whatever it looks like. So just marinate on that. I don't know.
Public art curriculum. I love it.
Mhm.
One
And
of the
to
things that Arts Council is doing right now actually goes side by side with that. We're putting together, we've got a call going out for local artists to do video like a demonstration of their art, and it's going to be curriculum for the high school. Two of our Arts Council members right now, our board members, are high school art teachers, and so we've been partnering with the schools in a lot of different ways. But that's a really exciting program that we're starting, and so it goes right along with that.
That's great.
That is
And
good.
something Donna brought up, surfaces of basketball courts. There's a, Stephanie knows, you're gonna roll your eyes at me. The Bloomberg Philanthropies has an asphalt art grant every year for things just like that. When they first announced their asphalt art grant, Mark Beechuk and I tried really hard to explore options to create crosswalks, artistic crosswalks that are musically themed for the 13 intersections that touch the Athens Music Walk of Fame. And then county employees are like, 13 intersections, how much does this cost? So, you know, we did meet with the head of Public Works. We tried. It was still hard, and the time frame we had to get cost estimates. But there's philanthropy for darn near everything. So we should start thinking, if you have a special project, and if you can raise your own money from a grant, that will increase the likelihood of your special project seeing light of day. Any other arts happenings? Thanks, everybody. We covered a lot of ground and not a lot of time. So I appreciate your attention today. We will keep in touch. Keep up the good work, everybody.
Thank
Good
you
night.
all. Great.